Ever like to meet buyers for the first time at a listing, where most agents try to meet their clients? And then it's just a whole process of shopping, and you never really know what they can afford, if they're telling you the truth, where they work, and you can end up wasting a lot of your time. You have to remember that a buyer is someone who actually buys, and someone who actually buys is someone who's motivated enough to have a sit-down meeting with you. So I really try to have all buyer first impressions happen either in their office or, if I'm lucky, in my office. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. I've got a buyer, Mike, who has graciously agreed to do this in front of all these cameras for this course. And we haven't even seen a single apartment yet. And you are now looking for your first apartment in New York City. Yep. And we've got my Serhant Team Buyer's Guide, which you're all going to be able to download right after you finish this video. And we're going to go through it.
Great.
Step by step. You ready?
All right, yep.
Okay.
Ready.
Why don't you just tell me first kind of who you are and why you're looking to purchase your first home?
Great. Yeah, I moved out west a couple of years ago with my wife. I got a great job opportunity there, but we're New Yorkers at heart. And thankfully my company is opening an office in New York, so I'm being transferred, and
Awesome.
we're ready to start our life here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of what your price point is?
Yeah, I would say, upwards 2 to 4 million. We really want a 2-bedroom.
Big range.
Yeah. We've got,
Little caveat for everyone who's watching. Young people who come to New York City with great jobs have nice, healthy budgets. So congratulations on that. And do you have a timeline where you want to try to find something?
Yeah, I would say, probably in the next 3 months.
Okay. All right, good. Quick.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what I like to do is I've got a buyer guide here. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I've broken down the entire process for purchasing, both in New York and anywhere. And so I want to go through this kind of step by step, and any questions you have, this will help us understand together that buying really is a process of elimination and not just shopping. But I think you understand that because you look like you want to find someplace in the next 90 days. So this is the buyer's guide, and everyone will get a copy of this once you finish this video. So first up is how much house I can buy. So one, do you know if you'll be paying cash or if you'll be getting a loan?
So I definitely want to get a loan. I think I want to take advantage of the interest rates at this point.
Okay, got it. Have you been pre-approved for a loan yet?
No.
Okay, so after this meeting, I'll introduce you to some of our best mortgage bankers. And it's important that you always have great preferred partners. Here we work with Chase, Wells Fargo, First Republic, HSBC, wherever you're based. Make sure that you have great loan officer relationships because they're really, really important to getting a deal done, especially if somebody wants a loan. And so once you talk to that mortgage banker, they'll really help you figure out how much you can afford to put down. Because in order to go to contract, you'll have to put down at least 10%. And mostly you'll want to put down at least 20%, if not 25%.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Any questions about that process?
Yeah, I guess the difference, buying a condo versus a co-op, does that change?
Sure. In New York City, we are pretty unique in the fact that we have condos and co-ops and houses. For the most part, you'll have to put down 10% at contract signing. And then if you're buying into a building that has kind of down payment rules, you might have to put down more. But for your budget and for the fact that you want to have this be a nice investment and you may need to rent it later if your job transfers you elsewhere, we want to stick with condos, which are just fee simple real estate. All right? So you'll talk to your banker and then you'll come back to me from there. But as of right now, your budget is $2 to $4 million, which is nice and healthy. Number two is you'll want an attorney to help you with the process. In New York, a real estate attorney is going to be the person who does the entire contract process for you. As the real estate agent, I'm going to help you find the property and negotiate the best deal, make sure everything is great. And then I'm going to stay on top of the attorney to make sure that the contract is perfect, negotiated in your best interest, because my fiduciary responsibility is to you as my client. And then I'm going to make sure that they're going to able to get you to closing. Elsewhere, if you were buying anywhere else, I don't know if you ever bought on the West Coast, sometimes you don't need real estate attorneys, or people just use family attorneys, but it's always good to have a real estate attorney, even if you don't think you need one, to help you through the process so that you have at least like your own personal board member in the wings waiting.
Okay.
Do you have a real estate attorney in New York City that you like?
Yeah, my uncle, he's an attorney in Long Island.
Okay.
So I was going to go with him, but if you think I should have someone more specific to New York City.
Yep. I think whether you're buying in New York City or you're buying in New Zealand, you want to have an attorney who is based in the location that you're buying, who's probably done real estate transactions in that specific location. Just because, listen, your uncle sounds like a great guy, you're probably going to run some questions off of him because he's going to be completely in your best interest. But the attorney who's here is going to know all the intricacies of how to purchase property in this specific location, and it's very, very, very different. New York City is very different compared to Long Island, compared to California, compared to China.
Okay.
All right. So I'll also make introductions to you to real estate attorneys. So you should also, on top of preferred lenders, you should have preferred attorneys that you are able to send immediate referrals to out of the gate the minute your buyer walks out of your office. Next, step 3 is finding an apartment. So we're not going to do that today, but I just want to talk to you about kind of where you want to live, neighborhoods maybe you're familiar with, and the size range of home. So have you thought about it at all?
Yeah, we're downtown people. I think definitely south of 14th, Soho, West Village.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think that's where we're focused.
And have you thought about size of apartment at all? You said maybe a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, I would say at least a 2-bedroom. We like lofts, we like tall ceilings, we like light, so that's going to be really important.
And if you had to make a choice, would you prefer more apartment, or would you prefer more apartments with no amenities, so no doorman, no gym, none of that, or less apartments, but you want all the bells and whistles?
I would say more apartment.
Okay.
Amenities aren't a big thing for us. We barely use the gym in my building in Seattle, so.
Got it. And what about pets? Do you have pets?
Yes, a pug.
Okay.
He's only 10 pounds though,
Got
so.
it.
He's
So I
like a
want to make
cat.
sure. So we just want to make sure that we're going into a building that allows dogs as well, because New York, again, is very, very specific that way. Okay, so downtown is probably the most expensive place in the world to purchase real estate. You've got around Central Park, anything on the water, and then downtown is very expensive. Luckily, you have a nice, healthy budget, and we could probably honestly find larger apartments, maybe 3 bedrooms, up to the $4 million number. But it sounds like you might be more comfortable closer, kind of like the 2 to 3 range.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Okay, so there's definitely inventory for you. And if there weren't, I would honestly tell you, and then we would try to temper expectations. But for what you're looking for, there's definitely things that we can see. And after today's meeting, I'm going to put together a nice property portfolio for you that you can peruse when you get home, laying in bed, going through them, all the pretty pictures.
Great.
All right?
Sounds great.
Have you seen anything online already that you like?
Yeah, I love Straight Easy. I'm always stalking it.
Sure.
We've been to a few open houses, just kind of checking the market. So, there's, a property at 620 Broadway, a penthouse that I think might be a little above my budget, but
Okay.
got a lot of outdoor space, so that's kind of nice.
I like it. First property in New York, you're already looking at Soho penthouses. You're on top of it. Now, listen, fortunately, Mike can afford what he's talking about, but oftentimes we meet buyers who can't afford what they like. And buyers see lots of things on the internet. They send you lots of links and they say, oh, what about that? I heard that's negotiable. So typically you want to temper those expectations and talk about the purchase process, not as a shopping process, not as a fun process you're walking around in. This is an investment process, and it is a process of elimination. So I'll definitely put 620 Broadway on the list so I can send it to you as well, even though you've seen it, so that it's also mixed in with other things that I think are also good options. And some of the things I'm going to send you to are possibly not what you're looking for, but I think they're good options for you to see to be able to compare. Sound good?
That sounds great.
All right. Next process is step 4, which is what do I want to pay for? So one of the things that we should think about as well, and there's not a whole lot to go on here, but what is the most important part of this home for you? You said it was loft style, large ceilings. Do you need views? Do you need a fireplace? Do you need something close to the water because you have a pug who needs to go for walks? It's good for me to know exactly what you need. That way, if I can find everything, great. But I'm probably not going to find an apartment that has literally everything you need. It'll have most of what you want.
Right. Yeah, I think an apartment that you feel like you live in New York City. So I think views. I think that would be the biggest plus.
Views.
Yeah.
But you don't need a wood-burning fireplace.
My wife might say differently, but
Okay. Hardwood floors, any type of appliances.
hardwood
anything
floors.
Like that.
Yeah, I love to cook. So
Okay.
open kitchen,
Okay.
top of the line appliances. That'd be great.
Any type of toilet.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a lot of buyers these days who need those smart toilets. Yeah, they're really into that. Now, if I find you something that hits all those boxes, so big ceilings, loft, in the right location, open views, within the budget, but it needs some work, are you open to doing a renovation, or do you need to be in the next 90 days?
we're open to renovation. We can always rent if that's the case.
Okay.
But yeah, I think from an investment standpoint, that could be good as well.
Okay.
Putting a little work into something.
Okay, good. All right, so we are narrowing in on what you're looking for. So right now, in my mind, I've narrowed down the listings that we're going to look at, and we're going to look at things that have high ceilings, that are lofts, that are south of 14th Street in good locations, that don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles, but do have good open views.
Great.
That might also need to be renovated. Do I have it kind of right?
Yep, I think spot on.
Okay, got it. Awesome. So section 5, I like to call where do I sign? And it could be 2 to 7 days, let's say, after we find the right property. And so this is all about negotiating, how we're going to negotiate, and what the contract process is like. So there's not a whole lot to talk about with regards to that right now because we have to go find the property. But you want to keep in mind that everything we're looking at, we want to look at it not just do you like it, but is this something we would like to make an offer on? Because remember, you actually want to find something and you want to actually buy it. Right? We're not just going and shopping. You can do that online. That's the best part about the internet these days and the best part about the phone. Tonight, if you can, when you go home, go on to Zillow and Realtor.org and Trulia and StreetEasy and any cool apartments you see, send them over to me and I can vet them and I can add some good ones or remove some others. That way it's kind of a tag team process between the two of us. Because I know everything about all of the properties and the backstories. You know what they look like in little photos on your phone. And together, we will find you the best possible home. But once you find the right property, we'll negotiate it as much as we possibly can. And once you're happy with it, then you would sign a contract with your attorney. And anywhere else, if it wasn't in New York City, the real estate agent would do the contract process with you, and you would end up signing a contract to make an offer. You'd probably give a good faith deposit. The whole process is a little bit different everywhere. New York is very, very specific in the fact that we bring in real estate attorneys, and I just want to make sure you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I mean, is it a much larger cost in terms of closing?
Not really. A good real estate attorney for a regular transaction is a couple $1,000s.
Okay, I think that's worth it.
Yeah, just to protect you. And what it really does is you make sure that your deposit is protected. Because God forbid something happens to you, or something happens to the property, or you don't pass an inspection. You want to make sure you have as many protections as possible in the contract for you. Because if you find something for $3 million, you have $300,000 on the line until you close.
All right.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Next step is 6. I haven't lost you yet, have I?
Nope.
Okay. Next step is number 6. This is who am I? Because in New York City specifically, you have board packages. So this is if you're buying in a condo, which you probably will, or in a co-op, you have to do a board package, which is a big application which walks through literally who you are from birth. They're going to look at your tax returns, your financials. If you're getting a loan, which you are, they're going to want to see the commitment letter and the pre-approval letter. They're going to want a bio. They're going to want personal letters of reference and professional letters of reference. They're going to want to meet the dog if it's a co-op. So it's a whole process that we'll walk through.
All right.
Any questions about that?
Sounds pretty invasive.
It's just like getting a
Same
loan.
with a condo and a co-op?
The co-op is going to want an interview, and the co-op in New York City has the right to not allow you to purchase it.
Okay.
Which is why we're going to focus on condos.
Great.
Right? So in a condo, the condo board only has a right of first refusal, which means if they don't like you, the condo board has to buy the apartment from the seller who's selling it to you, and that has never happened. All right?
Sounds good.
Almost at the end. So you're doing that board package. We found the right space. You're really excited. That's when you go back to the loan officer, who I'm going to introduce to you right after this meeting, and you get your loan. So that's where all of the heavy paperwork comes in. They're going to look at your tax returns. They're going to want your pay stubs. They're going to want everything that you can possibly provide to be able to get you the best loan at the best rate possible.
Great.
Sound good?
Yeah, and that process takes about...
And that process can take anywhere from, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
Now, outside of New York City, that process can happen really, really quickly. In New York City, you want to plan on probably closing in 30 to 60 days. Give or take.
So we got to get out there.
So we got to get out there, which is why I'm going to send you properties right after this meeting.
Great.
After that, if there was a board package approval process, then that is step 8, which is getting the approval and being able to move in. And then after that is scheduling the closing. That's lucky step number 9. So then after you get approved by the board, you schedule the closing with the bank. We'll do a walkthrough. If we need to do another inspection, we'll do an inspection. If there's anything wrong with the apartment, we want to make sure that everything is in good working order and that the seller left it nice and clean. If it's new construction, we want to make sure everything works and you have all the warranties and guarantees. And then you schedule your moving company to come through. And then there's step 10, which is not on here because step 10 is you've closed, you've moved in, and you invite me to your housewarming party.
Great.
Does that sound good?
Sounds great. I'm excited.
So that's the guide. I'm going to give this to you so that you have the entire step process so you can look over it or ask me any questions throughout. But basically what the next steps are is when you leave, I'm going to introduce you by email to different loan officers. I'll introduce you to 3 so you can see who you're most comfortable with and who's going to give you the most competitive rate. I'm going to introduce you to 3 real estate attorneys so you can talk to them to also see who you're most comfortable with and who's going to give you the most competitive rate. You're also going to see if there's any properties that you've seen online, like the one you mentioned at 620 Broadway or anything else, send them over to me so I can vet them for you because we're in this together. And then I'm going to put a nice big property portfolio together for you and send it to you as soon as possible so you can start looking through it so that online and while you're at work, we can narrow down the selection so we don't waste any time, so we can start going out and seeing properties and start writing offers to get you into your new apartment in Lower Manhattan as soon as possible.
Awesome.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Ryan.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Excited.
So what I just did is I qualified a buyer. I didn't have to do it on the street. I didn't do it in the car. I didn't do it in someone else's home. I did it in the comfort of my own office with a buyer's guide in front of me, so I didn't miss anything, including, do you have dogs? In which case he does. He has a 10-pound pug. That way, again, I know that he's a real buyer because he took the time to come into the office. I know he's a real buyer because he's going to talk to loan officers and talk to real estate attorneys, and he's going to work on the process with me. He's not going to go out and try to use other brokers or do anything else because he sees how professional I am. I wore a nice suit. It's not an expensive suit. I sat down with him, I showed him that I work for him, and we've completely qualified both what I do and what he does to make this a nice, happy relationship going forward. And yes, I will be there at his housewarming.